Ryan Day needed to eloquently state where he stands. I don't think it's certainly any surprise to anyone who read his letter that was presented on Twitter, where he stands on all of this. He has been firm and has been fairly reserved to a certain extent and done it in a professional way, but has been adamant about football should be played. And Kevin, we'll start with you in regards to how you break down the letter. So I've got it. He definitely made a plea at the beginning to say communication has not been what it should be. He then said, we still have an opportunity to make this right. Then he basically said, hey, I'm proud of everybody involved, both at the Big Ten level and at the university level in regards to the medical, the safety, and the guidelines in play. We have so many questions have yet to be answered, and flat out, bottom line, why can't we play?
Yeah, that about covers it. Communication has been poor on this whole situation. When you go back to the protests with Randy Wade and the other parents, they wanted just to have communication with the Big Ten. Kevin Warren has been largely MIA. I know there's some national talking heads who are saying otherwise. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Trust me on that. But, Ryan Day is doing the best he can to hold this thing together. First kind of cracking the dam. Wyatt Davis opts for an NFL path at this point. They need some answers because I don't think he's going to be able to hold us back much longer. These players have done more than what's been asked of them, holding tight at this point, but they're not getting any answers. And the timing of this message came right after the weekly Big Ten coaches call, a call that I was told was quote unquote contentious. And maybe a couple of expletives were used on there, as coaches are known to do from time to time. And, I applaud Ryan Day, but I also applaud Scott Frost early in the process for saying what he did. James Franklin was on national radio. He had his comments. Jim Harbaugh up in Ann Arbor during their protest, he certainly made some strong comments as well. So, let's not single out Ryan Day as some people are of him being self-serving and only doing it as the best team in the conference. Communication has been piss poor from day one on this. And, I applaud Ryan Day for a very professional and emphatic message that he put out there.
What do you think, Steve?
I think all of these developments today have me a little behind, and I'm trying to squeeze in lunch as we're talking about this. But, every week we come on here and we're upset about one thing or another. And, today, we could put any number of people in our crosshairs and take them apart and just dismantle them. A lot of people looked at Nicole Auerbach, who's been a constant thorn in the side of Ohio State and Big Ten people who want to see a football season this year. And she made the comment that he was going to war or declaring war on the Big Ten. And that's not, in fact, what he did. James Franklin made a very similar comment prior to Ryan Day. And when I heard Ryan Day was making a comment, I was kind of like, well, James Franklin has been heard on this. So now Ryan Day, as the next closest contemporary in the Big Ten, really you could say they're right now the top two head coaches in the Big Ten, with no apologies to Jim Harbaugh. And Ryan Day had to come back with something himself, and people kind of ignored what Franklin said, which almost word for word was similar to what Day said. And then when Day said it, it became a national incident. And you're just like, what the hell? One day after another, after another, after another. And where is fair comment in this whole situation? Any argument anybody wants to use for why the Big Ten shouldn't play, that person then needs to turn around and use it directly against the American, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC, and decry them for wanting to play and actually playing. And in this footprint, West Virginia's going to have a game. Louisville's going to have a game against Western Kentucky. Notre Dame is hosting a game against Duke with fans. Some of these places are going to have 15 or 20,000 people in the stands within 200 miles of Ohio Stadium. And Ohio State can't play? Are you kidding me? I don't get it. I don't get it. And no one has ever explained it. And truly, the Big Ten and Kevin Warren have brought this upon themselves with their absence, their total, complete absence from the scene. They just dropped this cancellation. After 130 years of playing football, you can't play this year. Sorry. And they just turned and left and haven't been back to explain it, clarify it, broaden it. And we're just supposed to trust in some process. I don't give Wyatt Davis one bit of flack for doing what he did. And my son just texted me and said, well, now that his linemen are gone, why would Justin Fields bother playing in this farce either or continuing with this? They brought this all upon themselves. Again, I say it every week, you've weakened a country today with what you've done. That's what this whole thing in my mind comes back to, is that they have, not even meaning to do it, they've ruined a tradition in the Midwest, for no apparent reason, and can't defend it and won't even try to defend it. And so I could go on for the entire hour, but Tony, your fans I'm sure are clamoring for your 2 cents on this. And I know when we give the baton to Tony, I know he is going to put a perspective and a shine on this whole situation that I've never even considered, but is just, it'll be amazing to hear, because the developments of this week alone have been so extraordinary that I'm sure you've got something ready to go, and I'm all ears. Go.
Well, I think you guys, of course, are approaching it from the wrong angle. As we have seen, Pat Forty and Nicole Auerbach tweeting that, who is Ryan Day to, obviously Ryan Day wants to win, and he admitted it. We caught him. He admitted that he wants to win a championship in an era and a situation right now where football is completely impossible. Right? It's not happening anywhere. You can't play football, and he wants to go out there and play football and also win. A football coach wants to go and win. That's beyond the pale. And I would, if I was President Christina Johnson, I would ask for his resignation immediately for wanting to win a championship and then going out and admitting it. Of course, and then my favorite part is anybody criticizing him for wanting to win will also be calling for his job in 2 years if he's not winning. So let's balance these things. And also, while you're criticizing Ryan Day for wanting to play football, you're also live tweeting actual football going on, and probably throwing in some exclamation points as well because of the excitement of college football. So which is it? Is it bad or is it good? It can't be both. I'm okay. If you want to say it's bad, stay on that course. I saw Christine Brennan write something up today about she can't watch college football. Fine, stay on that course. But don't give me Ohio State is bad for wanting to play, and everybody else in the Big Ten should kowtow to them. And then also, let's talk about Notre Dame's title chances. You can't do both. You can't bang on one program for wanting to play and then cheer on another for actually playing. And it's not unusual to have Ohio State get this kind of criticism. I just think back to 2 months ago when you had so many national writers talking about, the players are using their voices. Big Ten players are using their voices. Pac-12 players are using their voices to cry out for rights and to just make themselves known and use their power. And then Ohio State players come out and say, we feel pretty good about Ohio State. We like it here. We don't feel we're being taken advantage of. We just want to say that. And then you had all of those same people saying, what are you doing? How dare you speak out like this? And it's like, well, do you want players to use their platforms and speak out, or do you want them to just use their platforms to speak out with the stuff you agree with? And so that Ohio State seemingly gets treated differently so often. That's a case. This is another case where to see Nicole Auerbach say this has always been about Ohio State playing when I believe Nebraska players are suing. Michigan's players and their coaches were marching last week. It's just like the Big Ten attorney, and when he said it's just 8 Nebraska players who want information, who want to play. So are we really going to reverse course and give all of this information up just because it's 8 Nebraska players in this lawsuit and implying that nobody else wants to play football or nobody else wants that information? It's the same thing here. It's not just Ryan Day that wants to play. It's all, it's every Big Ten athletic director almost, and more than just Ohio State and more than just Ohio State's players. And I don't understand how you could come up with that take. And then when you get roundly criticized for it, I mean, what did you think was going to happen?
I caught the Jim Harbaugh appearance on campus a few days ago. He has been silent up until that point, and I just saw it as based on his engagement, attachment, just being entrenched in Michigan football and in the university, maybe more so than any other coach in the country because of the various levels of his attachment, that he was trying to play good soldier for as long as he could, following the line of Bo, who would certainly bow to the orders and fall in line. But he could only take it so long and then said, okay, I've given you every opportunity to reverse course. Now I've got to get out there. And as Urban Meyer made a statement several weeks ago about where he believes a coach's loyalty should lie first and foremost to the players, that you don't work so much for the university as you work for the players. And it appears as though Jim Harbaugh finally had enough. I don't know if there's anything else that's been stated by the coaches that you either see lining up, which is most of it, but that you see a different slant from a James Franklin or Scott Frost or Jim Harbaugh, those being the 3 prominent ones that have been vocal, as well as Ryan Day.
I want to jump in real quick because part of the disconnect up at Michigan is that Jim Harbaugh can't get his calls or texts answered by the president up there, Dr. Mark Schlitzel, whatever. And that's creating a bit of frustration too. Yet we have the Dan Wolkins of the world who are telling us that there's just this inaccurate narrative out there that Warren et al. Have not been communicating the situation. And if you take this at face value, there have been plenty of reports out there that not only is the Michigan president, has he been a hard no, he's been out trying to recruit others who've been on the fence to bring them into the no camp as well. So I'm surprised it took Jim Harbaugh as long as it did for him to finally come out and make the statement and show up at the rally up there at the big house or wherever it was up there in Ann Arbor and go against what, was coming out of university brass at that point. So, so you have that type of situation. In NJ.com yesterday, you had the Rutgers president who said that he wasn't going to let cheap politics get in the way of changing his vote, and then immediately got involved in cheap politics by grandstanding and making his statement. You're Rutgers, for Christ's sake. Shut up. You don't even have a full share of Big Ten money. You're just lucky to be here. I mean, it's like the scene from Top Gun where the guy tells Goose, and you're just lucky to be here, a-hole. I mean, I don't want to live in a world where Rutgers has an equal vote to anybody about anything. Shut the hell up.
On Rutgers, speaking of New Jersey, I found myself on YouTube watching a lot of old Sopranos episodes. And one of them that stands out to me is Johnny Sack is having the problem with Carmine Jr. over who's going to take over New York. And Tony is driving with Chrissy to the sit down. And he tells Chris under no uncertain terms he's not supposed to open his mouth. So they get to the sit down, and Johnny is just completely off the rails. And Christy says, well, why don't you offer Carmine this and he'll give you a percentage of this on the back end? And Johnny got that cigarette in his mouth. He turns, he looks at Chris and he says, didn't we used to just leave you sitting in the car? I think maybe that's where you ought to be, sitting in the car. Let the grown-ups speak. And that's how I feel about Rutgers.
I would like Steve to repeat that. That was so good. I'll just sit here and listen to it again.
I'm on a real Johnny Sack downhill run. And and then, of course, it goes into Phil Leotardo after that.
Well, Phil gets his.
Kevin knows full well. Anytime something comes up that's a recurring issue, my comment is again with the vitamins. When Terrell Pryor showed up at the facility with a new sports car after all the stuff had come up, you could just see that Ben Jay, the one assistant athletic director, and the other guys, again with the sports cars, like Tony was holding Phil up for the money with the vitamin truck that they had stolen. And Phil would say to Tony, when he'd bring up the money that's missing, again with the vitamins. When TP shows up with the new sports car, it's again with the sports cars.
And I don't think Greg Schiano is super interested in playing this year necessarily either. He'd like a free year to build his program. Same with Mel Tucker at Michigan State, where you don't lose any games this year. You can do what you want. You can build. You can make your cuts. You can improve some guys. It's easier to recruit when there are no losses to talk about, I guess. And then I think the Rutgers president has been on the job for like a month or so, and so they have not only does Rutgers have a full share, the president who's been on the job since like August has as much say as anybody else. And we all know that Rutgers was a mistake, and now Jim Delaney's chickens have come home to roost.